please give a warm welcome to Don Foster, MP, Parliamentary Under-Secretary of State for the Department for Communities and Local Government. Welcome.
Guys, huge apologies. I've rushed in, and as soon as I've finished, I'm rushing out again, and I don't want anybody to think that's because I don't care about what you're here for. I care passionately about community libraries, about libraries in general, and so on. It's just, unfortunately, it's a manic day because there's suddenly announced a debate in Parliament that I have to get back and sort out. But can I just say, there's also a lady in the room, in fact, she's at the back of the room, who came up in the lift with me, and I assured her she'd be far better rather than rushing in, listening to my speech to get a cup of coffee. So I want to say a big thank you to you, madam, for bothering to stay to hear this. I'm really grateful. But, you know, I genuinely love libraries. And I'd love to stay for longer, but I just want to give you a heads up. My very good mate, the library's minister in DCMS, Ed Vasey, is coming this afternoon, and I've warned him that I'm not going to have time to answer any questions, so please get the most difficult questions you can ready for Ed Vasey when he comes later, and he's looking forward to answering questions on my behalf as well as on his. One of the reasons I love libraries is you can still actually go to the odd library and find one of my books there. If anybody's looking for a really cracking good read, my fabulous book From the 3 R's to the 3 C's is still available in a few libraries. But there are very few of them left, and some of my other books, Science with Gas, is no longer available anywhere. I checked it out very recently. And my notoriously named book that I wrote, and I genuinely published this book for school kids, a science book that was clearly a huge error when I wrote it, with the title, What Causes Wind? You can, I mean, it was just a cock-up, and I apologize. But look, I've been around libraries for all of my life. I spent hours marooned in the various islands of knowledge and information and excitement, and I've devoured all sorts of books in libraries, science books, political histories, classic British literature, and so much more. But I've also been able, I hope, to impart my enthusiasm for libraries to my own children, to my grandchildren now who are great users of the libraries in Suffolk, to the students that I used to teach on teacher training courses. And also, I hope, to at least a few of the younger constituents in my own patch of Bath. In fact, so passionate was I that I used the last year's National Literacy Week as an opportunity to perform for the first time ever in public on my newly acquired ukulele, when I turned up and joined in rock and rhyme party for 4- and 5-year-olds with me on the ukulele and Book Start to Bear on the drums. But of course, you know as well as I do that books are not just libraries are not just repositories for books. They're increasingly institutions of learning, social hubs for local people, and places where an increasing array of community-focused activity takes place. Libraries, their ability to modernize in this age of austerity, hinges, I believe, on their capacity to look beyond the bookshelves and to truly involve their local communities. And last Saturday, I spent part of the morning in the fantastic Moorlands Road Library in my own constituency of Bath. It's a very small library serving a particular part of the community, and it was great when I was in there to witness what was going on. A lot of people coming in to look at books, to use the internet, to pick up some of the ever increasingly available reading books for the deaf and so on, particularly the new ones in these boxes, which are absolutely fabulous. But what was more important was the discussions that were taking place between members of the community and the staff in the library about the plans we have to turn the Moorland Road Library into a community library. And we were discussing with people what they want from the library, staff giving ideas, local councillors giving ideas, and so on. And it was a really exciting discussion about how that library will be transformed in the future. to something that I think will be very exciting. But of course, I've also seen what it will end up looking like, or at least getting a vision for what it will look like in many parts of the country. The other day, I went to, I don't know how many people have been, to the Circle Library in Sutton, the Community Circle Library in Sutton. It's a fantastic place. And not only was the community been involved in what goes on there, but the community were involved in designing the building. And one of the crucial things that they insisted upon was that there was an outdoor space, a community garden as part of the library. And if you look now what's going on there, it hosts a whole stack of local groups and clubs, IT classes, help people with finding jobs, CV writing courses, numeracy and literacy classes for children. And they're all making really full use of that fabulous library and library facilities. And of course, a lot of people have known that for a long time. And we're actually in a place that really gets it here in Whitechapel. They understand the need to change, to adapt. Of course, today, if you look at the courses that are available here in this building, courses on business and finance, family learning, information technology, and so on. It really is a sort of multifaceted set of facilities to meet the needs of a multifaceted community. And the real reason for the success of this place is because it's got the community behind it, it's got the community involved in everything that it does. And it is, as you know, not alone. Now we've got to a situation where 1 in 3 local authorities have got at least one community-supported or managed library operating within their area, and the numbers are growing very rapidly. We're seeing the move of libraries that have been run on behalf of local communities to increasingly libraries that are run by their communities, and it's making a real difference. For example, although funded by the City Council, library service in Croxteth in Liverpool was taken over by the local Alt Valley Community Trust. And like Whitechapel, it relocated to a multi-purpose centre and is now providing adult education and training services and a whole range of cultural activities. And as well as generating income from other grounds and maintenance contracts, Croxteth Library is now open for longer and has seen significant increases in the level of use. And that's precisely why we're giving the people of this country in their communities more rights to be able to make these sorts of things happen. Not just waiting for a benevolent local council to try and come up with ideas of engaging with the community, but increasingly we're empowering local communities to be able to take this on themselves through a whole stack of community rights that were enshrined in the Localism Act of 2011. So one very good example is the community right to bid. The community right to bid enables a local community to identify a community asset, which could be a village shop, it could be a village pub, it could be a green, or it could be a library, and have it listed on the Community Assets Register. Once it is on that register, if the owner, be it the council or anybody else, seeks to sell it, there is basically a 6-month moratorium where the local community can seek to get together a bid to seek to buy it, to take over and run it. And our community right to challenge is an opportunity for the local community to be able to come together and say, we think we can run a particular service better than the local council, and they have a right to have a fair hearing to see whether they can take over the running of, for example, a library. So the community right to bid, the community right to challenge, bring the two things together. And we're saying to local communities, you don't have to wait for your local council to start involving you. If they don't, you can actually do something about it yourself, because we believe in community ownership and we believe in community enterprise. And to make all of that happen, we've actually put £30 million aside within my department to provide support, help, finances, and so on to try and make it happen. And we're delighted that this whole event is organised by Locality, because Locality are one of our key partners in delivering those really exciting community rights that I've referred to. They're there to provide help to any community who wishes to move forward in the direction I'm talking about. Just ask the Upper Norwood Library Trust in Crystal Palace. They've already taken advantage of the support on offer and are working closely with Locality on their particular plans for library services in their area. But it's not just enough for the community to take over the library. They need a plan. Communities are best placed to spot things like skill shortages and using their connections to be able to plug the gaps. Fresh Horizons, for example, has put a cinema in the Chestnut Library in Huddersfield, and it is offering training in filmmaking and taking films out to people in isolated rural communities. And the people of Hudwell in North Yorkshire put a small library in their local community-owned pub, providing a much-needed additional asset in that rural area. And to go to the other end of the spectrum, my department has recently announced £1.2 million in tandem with the Arts Council, British Library and Barclays, so that 6 city libraries and other local towns can get access to the best business resources and the finest business brains. So when local authorities, local businesses, local charities and the local community all unite around their local library, they can collectively tap in to some amazing local talent. And I was, of course, like I hope many of you, delighted to see that wonderful report from the Arts Council about community libraries. And it shows that while there is more, of course, to be done, the community library idea is extremely popular and has come a phenomenal way in a very short period of time. So we're now starting to see the invigorating effect that genuine community involvement in the development and enhancement of libraries can have. And I just end by saying that I am absolutely certain that that pattern will continue for many years to come. And certainly I, as Minister, am going to do everything I can to help it. Can I thank you all for your interest in this issue, for your commitment to it, for the work that many of you I know in the room have already been doing, and for the work you will do in the future to promote this truly exciting, innovative change of direction for the library service, one where we no longer simply serve the community, but involve the community in the delivery of what is available. Thank you so much for what you do and what you will do in the future. Thank you very much.
Can't persuade you to take any questions at all?
Well, we'll do a couple very quickly.
Okay.
But I'll take 2 very quick questions as long as you save the really hard ones for Ed Vasey, because I'm determined he gets a tough time.
There's 2 people with their hands up here, so we'll
I really have to rush, so we'll do them very quickly.
Okay.
Who's going first?
The blue jumper,
the mic's
please.
There, we'll go there and there.
Fiona Brickwood from Free and Barnet Community Library. We are in the process of taking over. We have taken it over. We're running as a community library. What we want to do is to have this permanently. In your speech, you talked about the right to bid. You didn't mention the community asset transfer. With the right, it's not the same. With the community right to bid, you have to compete in how much you spend to buy the library with other interested parties.
Yeah.
With the community asset transfer, the authority can give it to you at a much reduced price. It's very onerous on organisations like us to have to find hundreds of thousands of pounds to buy the building. And we are already contributing huge amounts to the council, to the community, with the volunteer work. We've got 130 volunteers there. Will you do something to encourage local authorities to offer the community asset transfer rather than the right to buy? so that we can get it very cheaply.
Yeah, Fiona, thank you very much. You're absolutely right. There is the other mechanism, the asset transfer. My own local authority, for example, is currently negotiating 10 major asset transfers and doing it for the very reasons you say, because of the financial issues. And yes, of course, wherever possible, I will encourage councils to do that. But I have to be aware of the financial circumstances of local councils. So can I just throw one additional option into the pot? Because I know that where there isn't an asset transfer, but where it's through the community right to bid, there is the issue of fundraising. And one of the other bits of armoury or tools in the toolbox, which may help in some circumstances, is the relatively newly announced community share scheme. And again, we have a team of people who are available with resources and help to help you put together a community share issue. For example, the Bell pub in my own constituency, the community want to take it over from the current owner. He's not prepared to just give it to them, understandably. They want to be able to buy it. They haven't got enough money themselves, so they've now just launched, with the help of the community share unit, a community share option, which is a way of getting funds in from a wider range of sources. And there's help and support available to do that. But I accept it would obviously be better if people gave you the stuff. I understand that, but not all councils are financially in a position to do it in the rather difficult times we're in.
Hello, my name is Jodie Gramini and I'm from the Save Kensal Rise Library campaign. Is it the government's intention to encourage councils to treat the community listing as a material consideration, and will they issue guidance to that effect? In particular, I have an interest in protecting community assets from change of use by developers.
Okay, what I'm going to be very careful about, one of the things you discover as a government minister is if you say too much, you then get cited in court cases, planning applications, all sorts of things. So I'm going to be very cautious in the answer that I give to you. And I would merely say that one of the things that government has got to do as we develop these tools that we have in the toolbox, the community right to bid that you're talking about, and the whole issue of having an asset listed, at the moment the power lies with the local authority to decide whether or not they will accept it as a listing. And you have to demonstrate that it's a genuine community asset. You know all of this as well as I do, I'm sure. The issue then is what happens if a council is deliberately difficult and tries to prevent you having it listed on the asset register. Now, the challenge for that, of course, currently is through judicial review, but you may want to come back and suggest some alternative tools that we might want to develop, because we have to look at that. I've been very cautious in what I've said, because I think I know what you want me to say.
I must have misspoke. It's actually that Kensal Rise Library is actually privileged to already have been listed by the council, and they've been very supportive, which has been fantastic.
Then I'm deeply encouraged.
It's just that it's new. It's very plausible that developers who now claim to have ownership of the building are going to go for change of use, regardless of the community listing, and that the ownership has taken place outside of the community listing boundaries. So it was just really about the material consideration that a listed building, a community listed building, might be able to have in planning consideration.
Okay, I'm going to be very clever. This is the real politician's answer, okay? We employ a team of people, including Locality, to advise organisations in cases like that. They're not ministers, and so they can afford to say what they think, okay? And since you have one of the top people from Locality sitting on the top table who is due to speak, can you ask him the question and make sure that I get a copy of the answer, okay? Can I thank you all very much indeed? I'm really sorry I've got to go. Cheers.